What is going on, good and wonderful people? Here to bring you another video, and we're doing a hockey history video, and we're going to be looking back at the trade that the Vegas Golden Knights made in 2018 to the Ottawa Senators, and it's the Mark Stone trade, and we're doing a history lesson for new players, new fans of the game, and for new Golden Knights fans that are either way too young to remember this trade or weren't around or just didn't watch the team or at hockey at all back then. So we're looking back at the Mark Stone trade for Vegas Golden Knights fans. Mark Stone is our captain. This is for new school Golden Knights fans and younger. Mark Stone is our captain, our leader, right winger, and was named captain, I believe, in the 2022 or the 2021 off season. I don't really remember, but we can check. He was sent to Vegas. Vegas traded bottom six player in Oscar Wennberg, Erik Brannstrom, whose potential we'll talk about, and looking back at the trade, how he turned out for Ottawa and where he is now, and a 2020 second round pick, which was originally via Dallas. And George McPhee made the trade his second year as Golden Knights GM before he was moved to hockey operations, which now the GM is Kelly McGrinnan. I think that's how you pronounce it. If I got it wrong, I'm sorry, Knights fans. I'm only human at the end of the day. So we're going to look back at this trade and let's get into it. So the Golden Knights would come off games to Washington Capitals, his cup that year. So the Golden Knights, they were looking for upgrades to their team, and they wanted to get a two-way player and a veteran player, as well a defensive player, which they eventually got in the 2020 off season. So let's look at Mark Stone's stats. Not his whole stats, but just looking at what he did for his time in Ottawa. He was consistent, except for his first few years, 20 goal scorer and putting up 50 to 60 points. And Ottawa was going into a rebuild. And they traded Matt Duchene eventually, but in the 2018 offseason, my apologies for that, they trade Erik Karlsson, their sole and captain, their best player, the best defenseman in the league at the time, and he's traded to San Jose. And people think Mark Stone is projected to be the next captain and staying with the Ottawa Senators. Unfortunately for Sens fans, it doesn't look like contract extensions were in the plans or they couldn't negotiate, I think, but I don't exactly remember. So Ottawa Senators are really bad in the 2018-19 season. Stone has 59 games, 28 goals, 34 assists, and 62 points plus 13, which is pretty good for a team that's going into rebuild. And Stone at the time was the best player on the market. I guess you can call it a market in the 2018-19 trade deadline. So Vegas trades for him, Erik Brannstrom, that pick, and Tobias Wennberg. And Stone makes a big impact right away. Stone scores his first 30 goals season, puts up 70 something points in total, 5 goals, 6 assists, and 11 points with Vegas. And Vegas is turning into a true contender. And Vegas, before the Stone trade, they signed Paul Stastny to upgrade their second line center and move Eric Holla down to the third line, or I think he was replaced. It's hard to remember with all the time that's gone by. So then they also trade Nick Suzuki. Looking back on it, was their best prospect in that entire first ever Golden Knights draft picks that they drafted in the first round. They favored Cody Glass over Nick Suzuki. So they trade Nick Suzuki, a first round pick, for veteran player Max Pacioretty, a 30 goal scorer on the wing, left wing, I believe he was on. Yeah, he was. Stone's a right winger. And they have Paul Stastny as your second line centerman, not Peter Stastny to get people confused. That's a way different time period. So Paul Stassi's their second line centerman, and Mark Stone's playing on the right wing with Pacioretty. He has some good line mates. And Vegas still has Riley Smith, William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault still in the first line. They have some depth pieces, a lot of original like Golden Knights misfits. And this was also the year they lost James Neal, who was on the second line, and David Perron. So they lost some wingers in the top six. So anyway, Stone contributes right away, and Vegas will end up playing. Let's look at the playoffs in 2018-19. As seasoned Golden Knights fans, that's probably everyone's least favorite besides missing the playoffs. 7 games they play the San Jose Sharks in a rematch after the Sharks lost in the 2018 playoffs against the Golden Knights in the second round of that playoffs. Stone has a big impact. 12 points, 6 goals, and 6 assists, plus 2. And the Knights collapse after taking a penalty, which is very controversial, on Joe Pavelski, who was on the Sharks at the time, now retired. And Joe Pavelski is jaws bleeding, and it was broken, I remember. And the Knights blow a lead. Knights do manage to tie it, but then lose in overtime. So, yeah, and a lot of people blame the refs for that one. So, but the Knights really did blow it that year. So the Knights were angry, and they were then heading into the 2020 season. Mark Stone, after signing an 8-year contract, I think it's 8 or 9 million. But I could go on Puckpedia to see it. But I think it's 9 million, I believe. But so yeah, Stone signed an extension right away when he was traded. And this was the second year of the Golden Knights' existence. So they still got time to win cups. 1920, 65 games, 21 goals. It makes me wonder if this shortened season never happened due to the pandemic. Would Stone had back-to-back 30-goal seasons? So like he puts up 42 assists. And one of the reasons I love about Stone is that like he's big on the physicalness. Like he's good at stealing pucks and from players, and he's 6'3", drafted 6th round, 178 overall. And most of the time when you get players drafted in the later rounds, they're expected to be nothing or just bottom players or AHL players that will never see the NHL or just barely. So we got a steal out of Stone. Well, should I say Ottawa did, because most of the time you don't expect much in the later rounds, but you can never know what you can get in the draft. So 2020, Stone is a plus 15. Golden Knights are hungry. They add players like Chandler Stevenson. It's hard to remember the entire roster, but we're just looking at the history. They still have all some more. They still have some original like misfits. Like 2019, they lose Pierre Belmar. They got William Carrier still. They still have Ryan Reeves. So even though he's not a scorer, he's an enforcer, which his job is to protect the star players and start sparks in case the team is down. Try to get the crowd to be quiet or get the crowd going. So like the team's losing bad. And 1920, Vegas ends up going to the Western Conference Final for the second time in their existence, which is the third round. And they play 20 games in total during that playoff run. Stone has 7 goals, 10 assists, 17 points, and is working out really good for the Golden Knights, which we'll get to Erik Brannstrom's career. We'll get to it, don't worry. So, moving forward, they lose to the Dallas Stars, and 2020 is when they brought in players like Robin Lehner, signed him to a $5 million deal, which we all know how that turned out, for those that remember. And they have Fleury as the starter, who's making $7 million, so they're in cap problems. So 2020 one, they bring in the offseason of 2020, Alex Pietrangelo, the best defenseman on the market for that. I think he was also the best player on the market for the free agency in 2020. And Petrangelo's coming off after trying to defend a championship from 2019 with the St. Louis Blues. And now Pietrangelo is done playing hockey for the rest of his career because of an injury. So Vegas is trying to make a strong team. Like they get their two-way player in Stone, they get a veteran player in Max Pacioretty, who does put up decent numbers. 20, I think he even scored one 30-goal season, but he gets hurt a lot. Max Pacioretty, he makes $7 million. And Vegas was really in cap hell for those that remember that days. I mean, we still have some cap problems, but you know how Vegas had to make moves to chase after the next shiny toy. For those that remember those days. So Vegas ends up in a 56 season. They have Chandler Stevenson on that team. And I think they traded Paul Stastny to Winnipeg, if I remember that year. Yeah, they did, I believe. So Vegas is trying to win the cup, trading a bunch of picks, do whatever they can after even their own management didn't expect him in the inaugural season. And Vegas has been losing a lot of original ice misfits and trading them to get stronger for the cup runs, which they're trying to go all in to win a cup. So 2021, Stone puts up really good numbers and is a plus 26. Vegas is really good that year. And Vegas ends up losing in back-to-back. That's back-to-back twice. Western Conference Finals. 2020 they lost against Dallas. 2021 they lost against Montreal, which people originally thought Montreal was not going to even make it, or a Canadian team, to the final that year, which they went on to lose to Tampa because Canadian teams were in a division of their own due to the pandemic, which we all know what happened. So 9 games they play in the playoffs. Stone puts up 3 assists, 5 goals, 3 assists, plus 2. So yeah. And before we get to the cup winning year in the last few years, let's look at Erik Brannstrom. This guy was originally supposed to be elite, a lot of people said. 5'10", from Sweden, shoots left, first round, 15 overall in the first round. This is one of Vegas Originals picks. The first one was Cody Glass and Nick Suzuki, and this guy. So this guy was supposed to be an elite defenseman, apparently, according to analysis, and this is just their words, not mine. I would have to leave sources if I can remember. But this guy was supposed to be the best defenseman in the 2017 draft, and it was supposed to be potential. What I mean, elite potential, is like you put up like really good defensive numbers, your plus minus is good, and you can win Norris trophies, which is the best defenseman of the year. I don't know what his full potential was, Erik Brannstrom, but I remember hearing some analysis and what people saw to him. I remember being upset at this trade, but looking back on it, thankfully, he never turned out to be it. Like, he plays in the AHL a bit, which makes sense because they want to develop him, and he's not NHL ready. As you can see, his stats, and he also plays in the I don't know what that is. He also plays a couple of. Let's just look at his NHL stats. And Ottawa, they took a long time to recover from their rebuild, but now their future's bright. So yeah, here's his NHL stats. 18-19, 2 games to give him this chance to see at NHL level. 19-20, 31, 4 assists, -9. 30 games, 21, 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points, +3. then a career high for 14 points in his career, and then the next year 74 games, 22, 53, 23, 74 games, 18 points, career high, plus 5, 76 games and 24, another career high. Then is let's see what happens. His history. Signs as a free agent, Ottawa lets him go because he is not becoming that player that people were expecting out of him. Then he's traded to Vancouver by Colorado, exchanged for this and a fourth round pick in the 25 draft, October 6th. Traded to New York by Vancouver, so he's traded again for players and a first round pick in the 25 draft for those teams. Then he's traded to Buffalo, so he's been on multiple teams the last few years, and now he's an unrestricted free agent. So at most in his career, he's just a bottom 6 defenseman or bottom 7th or bottom, like, just something bottom, or at most is a third pairing defenseman. He's not going to be that elite player that people were expecting out of him. So Vegas, like, really glad they traded him, because if they didn't, who knows what would have happened. Maybe he would have turned out to be that type of player. But I'm really glad we traded him. We got Stone. So let's get back to Stone. And the 2020 second round pick was a player that Ottawa drafted. Turned it out to be not much. Ended up going to Montreal. Is now playing in the KHL. So Ottawa, and we all know it took them 8 years to recover from that Chris Kuznick goal in double overtime. And Ottawa's set now with Brady Tkachuk and others. Chad Bolt, Tim Sumpin. So back to home stuff. So 2022's coming. Vegas trades Fleury and other players and lets players go because they want, and this is where they really don't have much original Knights, Golden Knight misfits left. And the previous year in the 2020 offseason, they trade Nate Smith to make room for Alex Pietrangelo, which they tried to build a super team. They trade Peyton Krebs, a first round pick, Alex Tuch, original Golden Knights misfit, for Jack Eichel. And this is where they're really stacked their top 6. They got Chandler Stevenson as your second line center, who's younger than Paul Stastny. At most, was playing fourth line minutes or just being in the AHL. So that was something. They have Max Pacioretty, veteran player, and Mark Stone on the second line. And it's hard to remember who they had in the first line. And this is Peter DeBoer, coaching the team his final year. And the original coach was Joant. I can't pronounce his name. He was in it for the first 3 seasons. Peter DeBoer came in during year 3, and he became coach, and he's the worst coach in Golden Knights history, even though he got them to back Western Conference Finals. And this is when Vegas really had a stacked super team, if you want to call it a super team. So Vegas misses the playoffs. Stone gets hurt, and I believe, and he's on long-term injury, and I think this is the first back surgery, because he's had back surgeries before the last few years. Only puts up. Is this playoffs I'm looking at? Yeah, this is playoffs. 22, 37 games, 9 goals, 21 assists, and 30 points plus 7. So Stone ends up missing a lots of games. I think he was out for the whole season that year. Vegas misses the playoffs for the first time. And then 2023 gets hurt again. And one thing I will say, I really wonder what Mark Stone's points and stats would have been if it wasn't for these shortened seasons, like the COVID seasons and all these injuries he's had, because injuries do affect your game as you get older. And Stone, let's see at his stats and his awards that we know, his statistics. He's a two-way player, which we know. Played in the All-Star game in 2022 before he got hurt. And Team Canada's roster for the Four Nations, which was this year. He's one of the best two-way players in the NHL, which I agree, two-way players. Let's see, he's the first captain in Golden Knights history in 2021, January 13th. And he, hang on, someone's coming. Never mind, it's all good. Almost took off my mask. Don't want to do that one day live, but so yeah, 2023 arrives, and we all know Stone goes on to lead the Golden Knights to a cup, but he gets hurt a lot. I think he has another surgery. I could be correct. I'm trying to remember all the details. I'm only human, people, at the end of the day. So if I miss anything, my apologies. 43 games, 17 assists, 21 goals, 38 points, plus 11. His best plus was 21. And Stone leads the Golden Knights to a cup. After that, he scores a hat trick in Game 5 against the Florida Panthers, the 8 seed team that knocks out the best team in NHL regular season history with 65 wins, and Boston Bruins. Vegas wins the cup. The rest is history. And we all know Vegas haters like to say they cheat with the long-term injury, and I think they are changing the rules when it comes to LTR, which is a long-term injury. But let's get back to the stats. Stone, less games, 16 goals. So yeah, his scoring is dropping because injuries do affect your game, but he's still putting up 50 to 60 points, and he almost puts up 70 points in his career high. He's a plus 22, which was this year. But this year, Stone did play 66 games, but he did miss some time. So he has, in his career, 700 goals. 700 goals, my apologies. Games, 231 uh, goals, 403 assists, 634 points, plus 141. So he's had a hell of a career. And Vegas, we made the right choice getting Stone because look what it got us. I know we were in danger of like failing constantly, but Bruce Cassidy came in at the right time, made Jack Eichel a better player, and look at us now. Even though we haven't won in 2 years, and we went all in trading the future constantly over and over and over, trying to get the next shiny toy. But we got the cup in the end, and and I say just keep trying to win cups until it's no more chances are there, and it's time to begin a rebuild. And this was a year the Golden Knights were expected to go down after losing Jonathan Marchessault, scoring his career high in 40 goals and almost beating original night Golden Knight misfit, William Karlsson, who's my favorite player. So looking back on this trade, it's obvious who won. Brandstrom never turned out to be anything special. He's a bottom player. So Vegas, this is looking back at the trade. Thank you, Stone, for being with us, and I hope you retire Golden Knight. Hell of a player. He's now in his early to mid 30s. Can't wait to see what Stone does this year. So yeah, Vegas, Vegas got a cup in the end. So let's just keep trading as much as we can to win the cup and not worry about the future. Yeah. So yeah, this is looking back at the Mark Stone trade years later. Vegas won, Ottawa's finally recovered. So yeah, that's the trade.